Welcome to The Explainer. We are jumping right into a massive logistical puzzle today. Actually, calling it a puzzle is putting it mildly. The 2026 World Cup group stage is an absolute behemoth. We're talking about 72 matches packed into a remarkably tight window. Honestly, if you're trying to track the tournament, staring down a list of 72 fixtures can feel completely overwhelming. But hey, that's exactly what we're here to solve today. We're taking the raw data from the official schedule, combining it with the latest analytical models, and transforming it into your ultimate streamlined roadmap. We aren't going to look at every single team, though. Instead, we're going to filter this massive schedule down to the squads that actually have the highest mathematical chance of lifting the cup, and compare their grueling paths. Let's get started. So this is it, the ultimate question that kicks off our entire analysis. Which team will actually win the FIFA World Cup trophy? I mean, it's the question every fan, every analyst, and every player on the planet is asking, right? But rather than just guessing based on gut feeling, we're going to use cold, hard data to guide our journey through this wild group stage schedule. Okay, let's map out our roadmap. First, who will win it all? Second, the 15% club. Third, the 10% contenders. Fourth, single-digit heavyweights. And finally, the ultimate group stage calendar. Moving to Section 1, who will win it all? We are starting right off with the 2026 Win Probability Index. Now, what's really interesting here is how our data establishes this highly exclusive elite hierarchy. Out of all the nations competing, the true favorites are whittled down to just 7 teams. We're anchored by France and Spain, tied at the absolute top with a 15% probability each. Then we step down slightly to England and Portugal, sitting at a very strong 10%. Finally, rounding out our Elite 7, we have the single-digit heavyweights, Argentina at 8%, Brazil at 7%, and Germany at 5%. These are the 7 giants we'll be building our roadmap around. Section 2, the 15% club, featuring France and Spain. 15%. I really want to emphasize this massive win probability figure for a second. Think about it. In a tournament packed with the absolute greatest teams on Earth, having a 15% chance to win the whole shebang before a single ball is even kicked, that is staggering. It reminds us exactly why tracking the specific dates, times, and opponents for these 2 particular squads matters so much. Before we dig into their individual games, let's compare how the schedule treats our co-favorites across June. Match spacing is literally everything in a tournament this grueling. So Spain begins their campaign on June 15th, getting 6 days of rest before their second match and another solid 6 days before their third. France, on the other hand, starts slightly later, on June 17th. They get 6 days between their first and second matches, but, and here's the catch, only 4 days to recover before their final group stage game. Spain clearly has a slightly more balanced rest advantage here. It really makes you wonder if Spain's 15% probability is practically a bit stronger than France's when you factor in that crucial recovery time. And this brilliantly illustrates France's precise journey through the group stage. They kick off in the early hours of June 17th at 1 a.m. against a team curiously listed in our data as Senegal. Then they have a 3 a.m. matchup on June 23rd against Iraq, before closing out their group stage on that short rest we just talked about against Norway on June 27th at 1 a.m. It's a consistently late night, early morning schedule that is going to require some serious peak physical management. Now let's look at Spain, or as they are affectionately tracked in our source data, Espin, or sometimes Espan. They kick off on June 15th at 10 p.m. against the wonderfully named Cape Birthday. Quirks aside, that's a match Spain will absolutely expect to dominate. They follow up on June 21st at 10:10 p.m. against Saudi Arabia, and then have an early 6 a.m. clash against Uruguay on June 27th. Notice the primetime consistency for their first 2 matches compared to France's brutal late-night gauntlet. Moving right along to Section 3, the 10% contenders, England and Portugal. 10%, this probability statistic sets the stakes perfectly. Sure, England and Portugal aren't the mathematical co-favorites, but at 1 in 10 odds, they are incredibly dangerous heavyweights who are fully expected to make deep tournament-defining runs. Let's highlight the scheduling nuances between these 2 closely matched giants. England kicks off on June 18th, gets 6 days of rest, but then faces a super tight 4-day turnaround for their final match. Portugal, however, starts a day earlier on June 17th, also gets 6 days of rest, but enjoys a slightly more forgiving 5-day buffer before their final group stage game. At a deadlock 10% win probability, an extra 24 hours of muscle recovery can easily be the tiebreaker between these 2 teams. Walking through England's timeline, the first thing that jumps right out is the sheer consistency of their early morning matchups. They open against a really tough Croatia side on June 18th at 2 a.m. Then it's Ghana on June 24th, also at 2 a.m. They finish up against Panama on June 28th at 3 a.m. For viewers in certain time zones, yeah, this is grueling. But for the squad, having their biological clocks sync to this exact, consistent time slot could be a massive hidden advantage. Mapping out Portugal's path, or Portugal as our quirky data delightfully dubs them, we see a totally different rhythm. They play back-to-back 11 p.m. matches. First on June 17th against Congo, and then on June 23rd against the incredibly spelled Uzbekistan. But then they have to dramatically shift their internal clocks for an early 5:30 a.m. showdown against a very dangerous Colombia team on June 28th. Trust me, that final match is a major red circle on the calendar. On to Section 4, the single-digit heavyweights. These are the legendary squads featuring Argentina, Brazil, and Germany. Let's trace Argentina's 8% probability path. They have a truly staggered schedule. They face an early test against Algeria on June 17th at 7 a.m. Then they completely flip their schedule to play a late-night 11 p.m. match on June 22nd against Austria. And then they flip back again for an 8 a.m. morning match on June 28th against Jordan. That constant swinging between morning and late-night kickoffs is a unique logistical nightmare that could easily threaten their 8% win probability. Now, let's check out Brazil's 7% journey. They kick off very early in the tournament timeline, playing Morocco on June 14th at 4 a.m. They follow that up on June 20th at 6:30 a.m. against what our data playfully identifies as Hey, before finishing their group stage against Scotland on June 25th at 4 a.m. Brazil's schedule is consistently right in that pre-dawn window, which means they can build a rock-solid, steady routine early in the competition. Concluding our individual timelines, we have Germany's 5% roadmap. They also begin on June 14th, but late at night, 11 p.m. against Curaçao. From there, they shift into the very early morning hours, facing Ivory Coast on June 21st at 2 a.m. and a seriously tough Ecuador squad on June 26th, also at 2 a.m. Look, with a 5% win probability, Germany is the statistical underdog of our elite group, but their schedule actually allows for generous rest days to prepare for those incredibly difficult later matches. Finally, Section 5, the ultimate group stage calendar. Let's consolidate this into your strategic viewing guide. So here's the absolute crucial takeaway. Out of 72 total group stage matches, if you only circle 3 dates on your calendar, you have to make it these mega match days. On June 14th, both Brazil and Germany take the pitch, setting the tone for the single-digit heavyweights right out of the gate. June 17th, that is an absolute blockbuster. France, Argentina, and Portugal all play on the exact same day. And finally, June 28th is the climax of the group stage, where England, Portugal, and Argentina are all fighting to secure their knockout round positioning. These 3 days are when the highest concentration of the world's absolute best will be tested. We started this explainer by asking who will win the trophy, relying on the win probability index to guide our top 7. But as we've seen, this schedule is just unrelenting. The shifting time zones, the short rest periods, and the sheer volume of games present unique physical challenges that data can't always predict. So I want to leave you with one final question to chew on. Does this grueling 72-match schedule actually favor the deep rosters of our top 7 favorites, or does this chaotic roadmap combined with wildly varying rest periods create the perfect storm for a hidden underdog to sweep in and steal the show? Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the data, and I'll see you in the next explainer.